So, is India building a counter to China's string of pearls strategy to corner and contain India? We're going to talk about it on the show today. My name is Sham Sharma. Welcome to the Sham Sharma Show. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Sham Sharma Show. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you. Okay, guys, today is a very special episode because I'm trying to start a new segment here on the Sham Sharma Show. That segment is the fan suggestion segment. Every week, you guys can send me stories that you would like me to cover on the Sham Sharma Show. And every week, I will pick one story that has been either a story that catches my fancy or catches my interest, or a story that has gotten the most upvotes, in terms of likes and retweets on Twitter. And I will make it a point to feature that story on the show. Today's story has been suggested by @Sharma Ishaan 89. So thanks very much, Ishaan, for bringing this story to my attention. And again, if you have any other good stories, mate, just send them my way. So today's story is one of those stories that largely flew under the radar and didn't really make any news or news waves in India, and which is surprising because it's one of those moves by India and by the Indian government that can have big impact and big strategic impacts in the future. So back in 2015, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited the island nation of Seychelles, and he signed an agreement to develop infrastructure on the Assumption Island in Seychelles and the Agalega Island in Mauritius. So in Mauritius, India signed an MOU for improvement in sea and air transportation facilities at Agalega Island. This pact provides for setting up and upgradation of infrastructure for improving sea and air connectivity at the outer island of Mauritius, which will go a long way in ameliorating the conditions of the inhabitants of this remote island. These facilities will enhance the capabilities of the Mauritian Defense Forces in safeguarding their interests in the outer island. And they're also developing a similar infrastructure and a base on the Assumption Island in Seychelles as well. Now, why am I talking about a news piece from 2015? Well, recently, back in January, India and Seychelles signed a revised agreement about developing infrastructure on Assumption Island. So Foreign Secretary of India, S. Jaishankar, and Secretary of State of Seychelles, Barry Faur, signed the agreement for the island's development of facilities on the island. They signed the agreement between India and Seychelles for the development, management, operation, and maintenance of facilities on Assumption Island today at the Seychelles Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Victoria. So Seychelles, with its exclusive economic zone spread over 1.3 million square kilometers, is particularly vulnerable. Recognizing this, India and Seychelles have drawn up a cooperation agenda that covers within its purview joint efforts in anti-piracy operations and enhanced exclusive economic zone surveillance and monitoring to prevent intrusions by potential economic offenders indulging in illegal fishing, poaching, drug, and human trafficking. What's interesting is that the Indian government has been given permission by Seychelles to develop a naval base and develop some military presence on Assumption Island. And in Mauritius, India is looking to develop something similar as well. So there are three key reasons as to why this is happening and why I think that this is a very important piece of news. So first, India gets a lot of its oil from the Gulf countries, and India's trade routes from the Gulf countries to India passes through that area around Somalia, which is heavily infested by piracy. And building a military presence on Assumption Island very, very close to that area, which is infested by piracy, will ensure that the shipments of oil from the Gulf countries to India get to India safely. The other thing is that Seychelles has a huge exclusive economic zone, and if India can help defend Seychelles against, piracy, against illegal fishing, and against poaching and things like that, it is also possible that India gets access to some of the activities in the exclusive economic zone. The third reason why I think this is important, and I think this is the most important reason as well, is that this can act as an effective counter to the string of pearls policy that China is applying in the Indian Ocean to kind of corner and contain India. So for people that are not aware, the string of pearls policy is a policy that China is using to kind of create and increase its influence in the Indian Ocean and contain and control India in the Indian Ocean as well, in its own backyard. So it's developing strategic ports in the Indian Ocean, for example, in Myanmar, for example, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka, in Maldives, and in Pakistan, thus trying to effectively corner India and effectively contain India and have India's influence get eroded in the Indian Ocean. And also the Americans and the British also have some influence in the Indian Ocean, as you can see in this area as well. already the UK, the US, and China have kind of beaten India to the punch when it comes to, influence in the Indian Ocean, which essentially is India's own backyard. That's something that has always been considered a big mistake by India, as to not staking a greater claim in its own backyard in the Indian Ocean. So I think these two steps, even though they're very small steps right now, I think these two steps are very important towards fixing that mistake. And developing these ports around the Indian Ocean and in the Indian Ocean could act in the future as an effective counter to the string of pearls policy that China has been applying. So I think this is a very interesting development. I think it's a very important development. And the reason I picked up this story also is because people very often say, you hear in India all the time people saying that, what is Modi even doing? What is Modi doing to protect India's interests? What is Modi really even doing for India? He's obviously done so many things, demonetization, GST. There's tons of things that he's already done to help the Indian economic sector. But in terms of helping Indian power, Indian influence, Indian security, he's also taking big steps. And this is another one of those big steps. It's a big step, but it largely flew under the radar because right now it's a small step. It is one of those steps that right now looks insignificant, but in the future, when India really needs it, this is going to really pay off for India. So I want to hear your guys' opinions as well. What do you think India can do to better develop its geostrategic assets and to better develop strategic strength, particularly in its backyard in the Indian Ocean? Please let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. I would love to hear them. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching today's show. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I will see you next week. Make sure, if you enjoyed this video, to thumbs up this video, make sure to share this video, and make sure to subscribe to the channel down below. I will see you again next week, and until then, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon.